everybody. Welcome to a Wednesday night edition of the Glen Kuiper Show here on YouTube. Thanks for joining me. We are looking forward to tonight's show for obvious reasons. The big news coming out of Giants land, and also the World Series is right around the corner. Those are the two subject matters that we are going to cover today. I'm really looking forward to the viewers' comments tonight. So we're going to spend some time on that to get everybody's feelings on what happened today with the Giants. So get your comments in, get your questions in. I will get to as many as I can. But let's get this show rolling. As we all know, the big news today, Tony Vitello is the new manager of the San Francisco Giants. Tony Vitello. So shockwaves sent through Major League Baseball today with this move by the San Francisco Giants. It has been rumored now for a little while, but today it became official. And to say that this is a big deal, I think would be an understatement. Obviously, it's a big deal for Giants fans. You just don't hire a new manager all that often, although the Giants have done it a few times lately. But just the magnitude of who you hired has made this a huge story, not just in the Bay Area, but really throughout Major League Baseball. A lot of different opinions about everything, and that's what makes this such an intriguing hire. But it is indeed Tony Vitello. He's 47 years old. Most of you know the story. He was the head coach at the University of Tennessee. Ton of success there, but he's now going from the college dugout as a head coach to the big league dugout as a major league manager. No professional coaching or managing experience. None of that in professional baseball. So this is a first, folks. This has never happened before, where a guy goes from a head coach in college directly to a head coach in the major leagues without having any professional baseball coaching experience. Never happened before. So that is crazy stuff. But there's a reason for all this. A ton of success in Knoxville. He won a national championship not long ago, 2024. And that's kind of when this guy's name started to come on to the baseball scene. His just his style and the success he had. He turned around a bad program at Tennessee into now one of the best programs really in all of college baseball. Anyway, so you started hearing about this guy. Hey, you see this guy at the University of Tennessee? He's having a great deal of success. So, but most of you know kind of the history there, where all the success he had, and some of the Giants players played for him at the University of Tennessee. But I think the question, one of the many questions now, is what is it about Tony Vitello that won the Giants over? And won Buster Posey over, and won Zach Managian over. And I think that's a great question. We'll probably hear more and more reasons as the days go on. But just reading about him, studying up, talking to some people about this guy, he's a very sharp baseball guy, very charismatic. I saw him on the MLB Network this summer. He was in studio during the MLB draft, which was pretty cool, right? And I remember watching the draft and listening to him, but he came across as just a really smart guy, well-spoken, very energetic, very enthusiastic. And I remember thinking, wow, this guy's sharp. Never would have imagined that he would be the manager of the Giants, but very confident. He came across, but it just didn't strike me as kind of the know-it-all. And listen, there's some college coaches out there that think they invented baseball. Trust me, but he didn't come across that way. He just came across as very confident, very sharp. And again, that's sitting in a studio setting, but still, you could tell why people are kind of fascinated with this guy. So anyway, so my thoughts on this whole thing. Could this be the beginning of maybe an industry shift, a slow shift? But if Vitello was able to have success in the Giants dugout, would organizations start to think more about at least looking into the college ranks for a new manager or maybe a coach. Hire a head coach from a university onto your coaching staff at the big league level, maybe, or something like that. But will this kind of open the door a little bit, for the head coaches in college baseball to maybe get opportunities in professional baseball more? I would say that's possible. It's going to depend on how this works out, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But if he has success, I think it could slowly open the door and maybe have a little bit of an industry shift. Now, listen, there's a lot of openings out there. Kurt Suzuki just got named the Angels, but I believe with the guy in San Diego stepping down, I believe there were 9 managerial openings. So there's opportunities out there, and there's a lot of good candidates out there, a lot of good managerial candidates. But I guess what I'm saying is, down the road in a couple years, if people like what they see from this guy in the Giants dugout, I just wonder if organizations may start to dip in to the college game a little bit more, not necessarily for a manager, but maybe for a coach, or maybe in the minors. I don't know. The problem there is, these college coaches are making a lot of money, and well-deserved, but college baseball has just gone crazy, and they're making a lot of money, so are they going to take a job, go down to the minor leagues? Probably not. That's, so that's an issue there too. But anyways, and you think about how far college baseball has come. You watch a college baseball game now, you go to a weekend series in an SEC city, or you watch the College World Series on TV, it is really, really good baseball. And, I was thinking, well, where does it compare to what level in professional baseball? Is it high A? Is it double A? I think it's in there somewhere. But it is really, really good baseball. College baseball has come very, very far. So we'll see. We'll see how this all works out, and we'll see if it does indeed have any effect on how organizations look at college head coaches. So Vitello's kind of leading the charge. He's the first one out there. And I thought a lot about this, but I've heard former Giants players say this, and I'm friends with a lot of them. Guys who played, 5 years ago, guys who played 10 years ago, guys who played 20 years ago. And one of the kind of the overriding themes that they all talked about was, and they said it in their own original way. They said, we're the effing San Francisco Giants. We need to have a little strut. We need to say, hey, we're the Giants. And they hadn't seen a lot of that lately, at least since, the 5 years where the Giants won 3 titles. I think that there's a feeling that the Giants need to get a strut back. They need to get a kind of a cocky confidence back. They need to have a little edge to them. The Phillies have that when you watch them play. The Dodgers strut around because they're really good. But you know what? You have to have that. You have to have a little bit of that. And if this guy, Tony Vitello, who has that, that's his style. He'll run the edge a little bit. That's what I think this organization I think that's what it needs. I really do. This is, and I'll argue this with him. This is a marquee franchise in the major leagues. You can look at all the different franchises, but the San Francisco Giants will fall under the marquee franchise. And when I say marquee, it's not all predicated on, how many World Series have you won? Or it's predicated on the whole big picture, right? And to me, this organization fits in that, and they need to act like it. They need to strut a little bit, right? Puff your chest out. You're the Giants. And I think that has slipped a little bit. I really do. Great fan base. They show up. Great ballpark. One of the nicest ballparks out there. It's the city of San Francisco, right? it's a marquee city. They have this market now, the Northern California market, the Bay Area. They have it all to themselves. The A's are gone. Sacramento doesn't count. They have the market all to themselves. That's a big deal. You got great history, right? You got the great statues out in front of the ballpark. Giants have a great history, and they cherish that history. You put all that together, and it's a marquee franchise. And I think the fans really want to see this group, this organization, the team play and act with a little edge. Okay. Listen, it's just something that I don't know if it got away from the organization somewhere, but you got a little youth in there now. You got a fairly young guy in the manager's office. You got Buster running the show. He's not been out of the game very long. I think that's where this organization is headed, and I think that's why Buster wanted his own guy. So maybe it was time for something new in the manager's office. And I want to make sure that I don't want anybody to think that this is saying anything wrong about the managers that have been here before, because they all had a ton of success, some more than others, but these are some Hall of Fame managers. You can go all the way back to Roger Craig, terrific manager, old school. Dusty Baker, he's going to the Hall of Fame. One of the greatest managers, great player, great guy, one of baseball's, true stewards of the game. It's Dusty Baker, right? Felipe Alou, he had some success here, very well respected. Bruce Bochy, we know what he did. Gabe Kapler, so wasn't real popular here, but Bob Melvin, 2 years, a very well respected, very good manager. So my point is, and they all did a good job. There's World Series championships in there. There's a lot of winning in there, but maybe it's time for something new. Okay. And I think that's the way a lot of fans feel. And I'm curious to see how they feel. And that's why I'm going to get to the comments here in a little bit. And I just think it was time. It was time to do something like this. Now, this is a pretty drastic move, but here's the deal. Buster's a pretty good judge of character, right? I think it's one of probably his better traits. So if he's willing to go out on a limb like this, and this is going out on a limb, I mean, you're hiring somebody who you're doing something that's never been done before. He must have a lot of confidence in Tony Vitello and have confidence in him without really knowing him that well, right? I mean, I don't think they have a past lengthy relationship. So if that's how Buster feels about this guy, knowing he's a good judge of character, there must be something special about Vitello. That's the way I look at it. And that is why I'm in favor of this situation, and I'll get to that in a minute. So I just think it's time for something new, and it's time. You know what? Maybe it's time to not be afraid to piss off the opposition a little bit. Okay. Why not? I mean, I think we're all tired of the Giants finishing around 500. Maybe there needs to be a little fire. Okay. And maybe Vitello can bring that out. He certainly did in college, but this is a whole different ballgame, and I totally understand that. Will it translate? We're going to find out. But there's plenty of enthusiasm. There's plenty of excitement with this guy and how he goes about his business. And we're going to find out. So it was reported a little later this afternoon that it was a 3-year contract that Vitello got for $3.5 million per year. So the total was $10.5 million. There was some talk about what his salary was at Tennessee, and The Giants are going to have to, pay him a lot more to get him out of there. So whatever the numbers were at Tennessee, he got a 3-year, $10.5 million deal. So $3.5 million a year with a vesting option for a 4th year. Vesting, there's probably some markers he would need to hit to make it vest. Could be as simple as games won. I don't know what the vesting options are, but it's a 3-year deal. So he's going to be here, and it's a new day for the San Francisco Giants. And here's some issues that a manager in this spot, where he's never been a big league manager before, that he's going to come up against, right? And they're not insurmountable issues. They're issues where the human side of Vitello and what he's all about, he's going to have to take care of it. But I think the most important thing, and you'll hear this I heard this from there 10, 12, 15 former players today on TV, on the radio, and they all said the same thing. He has to win the clubhouse. That's a very important thing, for taking over a manager's job. Even if you've been a manager for a long time and you got a new job as a manager, you got to win the clubhouse. Players need to buy into you and what you're all about. Players need to know that you are not fake or phony, or if you're dishonest with the player, you're done. You're done, because every other player will know that. And every manager knows that. And most managers are pretty straight up with their players because they know that you absolutely have to be. And I tell you what, major league players, if you're at all fake or phony, they will see it. They will see it within 2 or 3 days, whether you're a teammate or a coach or the manager. They have an innate ability, major league players, to see what teammates or coaches, or like I said, managers, to see what they're all about. If these guys are rah-rah and it's fake, they'll see it right away. They just have that ability. There's something about a big leaguer. They don't miss much of anything when it comes to clubhouse camaraderie and what guys are all about. And that's why it's very important for a manager to be honest. And I think most players, that may be the most important thing to a player. Just be honest with me. Don't BS me. If tell me, even if I don't like it, just tell me. That's what a player wants. Be real, be honest, and also listen to the players. And talk to the guys, and I'm sure that Vitello, he may be making phone calls already, get to the leaders early, get to Logan Webb and Chapman and Adames. Talk to these guys. Go visit them in Arizona, and he probably will. He may be doing it soon. Get a feel. Let them know what you're all about. These guys are dying, and they're I don't care how long they've been in the big leagues. They're dying to know what this guy's all about. They want this guy to succeed, take the organization to the next level. So you talk to guys, you Zoom guys, you go visit guys. So when spring training starts, you got a little bit of a relationship with most of the players. I think that's important. And that's what new managers do. And that's what Vitello will do, I'm sure. And then you get everybody going in the same direction, but the players get to know what you're all about. They're hearing about this guy that's got a lot of moxie and a lot of charisma and a lot of confidence, and he plays the game and he wants his players to play the game with an edge. They're all hearing this. Guys are looking, what's this guy about, man? Well, they want to see it. Is it real? And if it's real, great. I'm in with you. So that's and I don't even want to use the word issue, but that's probably the first step for a new manager. And in this case, Vitello, which, I'm sure he'll handle it fine. And I think, too, you got to stay consistent day to day. It's hard being a manager. Think about that, 162 games. You got to stand there and watch 9 innings and grind and grind and grind. And if you have a personality that's very enthusiastic, like it sounds like this gentleman has that, uh, you know, the players want to see that that enthusiasm is real. They don't want to see it only when it's going good, and then it's not there when the team is struggling. So there needs to be a consistency with that, but really with everything, and that's a hard thing to do for 162 games. When because you're going to go through struggles. Gosh, we saw it this last season, right? I mean, there was highs and lows, and you just couldn't figure out the team. And that's the hard part for a manager, but they have to do their best to stay, even keel, and that's not easy. And listen, he's going to put out a lineup. He's going to have a rotation. Those things to me, it's you're always going to disagree with the lineup as fans or whatever. I don't think that's his biggest issue, right? The bullpen, I mean, that's a thing, right? Because how often, how is a bullpen run in college baseball? Probably a little bit more like professional baseball as opposed to what it used to be, but it's still not the same. You got to worry about guys' usage and playing every day, that kind of thing. So I think the bullpen and how he's going to be learning, right? But that may be his biggest challenge initially. But outside of that, when it comes to actual game action, and you'll find out, is he an aggressive manager offensively? But you got to have the personnel to do it. We'll find out all about that stuff. But I think too, maybe the second most important thing after win the clubhouse is putting together the right staff. This is huge, especially when you have a guy that's in Vitello's situation where he's a new manager. He's never managed professionally before. That's the story. So the Giants and Tony need to. This is important. The staff. Do you need some veteran guys on the coaching staff? Probably. Would you like to have maybe a guy or two that maybe has been an ex-manager or maybe has been a manager and got a little bit of an idea? I think that would probably be a good thing. So that's going to be something to watch closely, I think, is how this staff gets put together. And it's probably being put together as we speak. That would be my guess. These things don't mess, they get rolling. We need to get this thing going. We need to get our manager. We need to get his staff together. So they're working on that right now, I'm sure. And Vitello needs to be able to get this staff together and then listen to him. And I'm sure he will. This is a smart guy. So the staff, and I'm really curious to see who's on it, because he's gonna have times in the game, where he may need to look to somebody and say, what do you think here? And that's not uncommon. I mean, that's why you have a bench coach. All the coaches check with their bench coach. He's going to need to do that maybe a little bit more often. I don't know. So let's keep a close eye on the staff and who gets hired. And I'm sure, as time, drifts on here in the next couple of weeks, we'll start to see this staff come together. So those are some of the issues that Vitello will deal with, which I'm sure he'll deal with them fine. That's not they're issues, but there's a reason why they hired him. They hired him because he'll be able to handle these issues. I mean, that's my opinion. So wrapping it all up from my perspective, I think, and I've thought a lot about this. I've looked at these different things. I've listened to what people are saying, but I think that this is a great move by the Giants. I really, really do. And I love the fact that they weren't afraid to do it. Okay. Is it controversial? Yes. Is it uncertain? Yes. Any manager you hire is going to be uncertain, right? This is a huge step out of the box, as they like to say. But I love the fact that the organization had the cojones enough to do it. and not be afraid of what people are going to just. I think this is our guy. Let's get this done. And that, to me, as impressed as I am with what I'm reading and hearing and seeing about Tony Vitello, I'm just as impressed with Buster and his people that they have shown in a year that they are not afraid to take a risk. And I think you have to do that as a GM, or as you know, whatever in charge of base. You have to be willing to take a risk. And sometimes it may backfire, but you have to be able to do that. If you're not able to do that, then you're probably not going to be a great guy in charge of an entire baseball operation. Because at some point you're going to have to take chances. And I love the fact that they're not scared. That's if I was just if I didn't have my own YouTube show and I was just a fan who goes to the game and spends money, I would want my team to win first and foremost. But I would want my decision makers to not be afraid to make a big move. And they have shown that they're not afraid to do that. And I think that's great. And people say your team many times takes on the personality of the manager. Well, let's see if that happens, right? This guy's got some fire in his belly. He's got a lot of enthusiasm. He likes to have fun. He gets after it. He's not afraid to rub the opposition the wrong way. I got no problem with any of that. And if that's the personality that his team takes, wouldn't you love that as a Giants fan? Isn't that exactly what you want as a Giants fan? You know what? So we rub the Dodgers the wrong way. Too bad. So we play hard and we play aggressive, and we don't care what anybody else says, and we don't care what anybody else thinks. We don't care what the Padres think. Right. And again, I'm being fairly generic here. I'm not talking about, hey, we're throwing at guys. That's not what I'm talking about. But you can play with a confidence and with an edge that can really bug the opposition. That's the way they need to play. And if he can get them to do that, then I think this team's going to be successful. I think he's going to be successful. And I think Giants fans will enjoy this new regime, whatever you want to call it, But I like it. I think it's a great move. And I'm very impressed that the Giants not afraid to do it. Okay. So I want to check with some of the comments. I told you I wanted to get to that, and then we'll move on a little bit. So, you know what? We're going to start out with our good friend Bake That Dough with a super chat. Thank you, Bake That Dough. Vitello transitions from dealing with students who are moldable to dealing with veterans who are stubborn and reluctant to change in what got them there. I think there's some truth to that, but I think you'd be surprised, Bake That Dough, that this image that once you get to the big leagues, you're just stubborn and don't tell me what to do. I know what I'm doing. I got here. That's not always that accurate, to be really honest with you. I think you'd be surprised at how open. Now, there's some big leaguers that are stubborn. That's not what I'm saying, but I think you'd be surprised at how many of them are open to ideas how to get better or how to come together as a team. Or I don't think it's as much of an issue as maybe you think, because big leaguers always want to get better. Now, there are some that are stubborn, yes, and there's probably some on the Giants that are stubborn, yes. But that's not just him that is going to be. I mean, every manager has to deal with that. Bob Melvin had to deal with it. Before that, Bruce Bochy had it. There's guys that are stubborn. So yes, I understand what you're saying, but I just don't know that the stubbornness or reluctance of big leaguers is quite as much as maybe you think. I mean, if that makes any sense. So Gary says the first ever major league manager ever to make the transition from college coach without any professional experience. That's it right there. That's what this is about. I mean, that's what the wonderment and the curiosity is all about. I'm curious. I want to see this guy in spring training. I just want to see him. I want to see what he's all about, and how people react to him. And I just think it just sounds like to me that there's a magnetism about the way he goes about his business, and trust me, that can rub off on veteran players just as much as it can rub off on a first or second year guy. I'm telling you, it can. If they see that the enthusiasm is legitimate and the fire in the belly and the will to win, let's do anything to win, and if that is all legitimate and the players see it, it will make a difference. Buster put his nuts on the table with this hire. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And I tried to say it in a little bit more of a polite way, but he did. But he also did with the Devers trade, right? I mean, that's putting it out there. These guys are not afraid. And that to me is just, if I was a fan, I'd be like, that's it, man. I love this guy. I love this group. And they're not always going to make the right decision. Remember that. They're not always going to make the right decision, but they're not going to be scared. Buster's no nonsense, just get it done persona has shown since he has taken this job. Yes, it has. And I think that's a big, big deal. And that won't change. Trust me. Gary says, were you surprised also that the Angels hired Kurt Suzuki? Thought they would go with Albert Pujols. Yeah, initially, Gary, it was about Pujols. That's who they said. And again, all this stuff is rumors, so we don't exactly know what's true. But it sounded like Artie Moreno, the owner, really liked Pujols. And then that just all of a sudden the name was there. I had heard, I don't know how much truth there is to this, but I had heard that Pujols, and we may chuckle, but Pujols was asking for quite a bit of money. But I think Pujols is going to get a job somewhere. I do. I think he's going to get one of these managerial openings because he does want to manage. He is a sharp guy, and he's managed in some of the WBC, I believe. And, so this is something he wants to do. He just, he wants the right deal. And Kurt Suzuki, you guys know how I feel about him. He's one of my favorite players of all time. So no, I wouldn't. When his name was out there and he was with the Angels in the front office, he played with the Angels. So no, I wouldn't say I was all that surprised that it ended up being Kurt Suzuki. I was a little surprised where I heard today where he only got a 1-year deal. So anyways, but good for Kurt. And you know what? I'll root for Kurt forever. I hope that he turns the Angels thing around. But initially it did sound like it was Pujols' job if he really wanted it. But there must have been a snag, and a lot of times it does come down to money, believe it or not. JB says Dodgers paid $18 million to Michael Conforto. Even the best performing team in the National League makes mistakes. Yes, well, and that's a good call, and they can afford to make mistakes. That's a big thing. The lower revenue teams, lower payroll teams, a lot of them can't necessarily afford to make that type of mistake. The Dodgers can. And Michael Conforto, we saw him with the Giants for 2 years. I was not that impressed with him with the Giants, and he did not have a great year with the Dodgers. But he's made a ton of money in the last 3 years. So, good for him. He's good at the business side of it. So let's see. Do you think Buster spoke with the players before the hire? I don't know. I'm guessing. I don't know. I would guess maybe not, but I wouldn't be sure about that. I don't. Yeah, I mean, who do you check with? Do you check with Webb? Hey, we're thinking about doing this. I would, if I had a bet, I would probably say no. Yeah, I don't want to go any further than that. I'm just not sure, how that would work, if at least how it will work before you hired the guy. You may check in with your top dogs, when it's getting to the finish, and say, hey, this is what's going to happen. That's a possibility. So anyways, but a good question. I wish I had a better answer for you. All right. So we appreciate the comments and good stuff as always. As now before we shift into gears to the World Series preview, let's hear from our sponsors. First of all, Tilden Properties. As an investor, one of the best places to put your money is California's multi-family real estate. By investing with Tilden Properties, you'll see quarterly dividends and equity buildup in the real estate market. If you're an investor, think about that. Quarterly dividends and equity buildup. Isn't that what you want? Well, that's what you get with Tilden Properties. Call them at 925-209-8558. Family-owned business, good people, and they do a great, great job for their investors. I'm telling you. Also brought to you by the Carrot Real Estate Team. Since 1978, they've been helping families buy and sell homes across the Bay Area with a legacy of client-first service. So they've been doing that for a long, long time. Whether you're moving up, downsizing, or purchasing your first home, the Carrot Real Estate Team will guide you home. Contact Mike Carrot today for a free home sale or purchase consultation. Call 925-548-4132. And we're also brought to you by Vallone Insurance. Are you tired of being overcharged for your property insurance? Vallone Insurance has multiple options for your home and landlord properties. Save big money on your property insurance. Call Kyle or Ron at Vallone Insurance, 925-433-8271. All right, so thanks to the sponsors, as always, and it's time now to move on to our World Series preview. The World Series starts Friday night in Toronto, Game 1, Dodgers and the Toronto Blue Jays. So Friday night, Game 1, Saturday night, Game 2. On Friday, it'll be Blake Snell for the Dodgers. We have not seen anything official from the Blue Jays yet on who will start for them. And then Yamamoto for the Dodgers in Game 2. So the Blue Jays will see Snell and Yamamoto in the first two games of the World Series. So let's look at least what these two teams have done in the postseason so far. Statistically, doesn't mean that that's going to carry on into the World Series, but it's just kind of fun to just see at least what they've done well, if they struggled in any areas. The Blue Jays, 11 games in the postseason. They've won 7. They've lost 4. Offensively, they've scored 6.5 runs per game, but I don't want to say skewed because they did score the runs, but 10 of their 71 runs that they scored came in the first game of that division series against against the Yankees, right? I believe it was against the Yankees. They hit 20 home runs in 11 games. They hit 296 in 11 games. And this is the one that fits their mold. In 11 games, the Blue Jays struck out 64 times. That's a little less than 6 strikeouts per game. Okay, remember, that's their jam. That's what they do. Vlad has been terrific. In the postseason, he's hitting .442 with 6 homers, 12 RBIs. And listen to this. Again, this fits this theme that we're working on here. In 43 at-bats in the postseason, Vladimir Guerrero, right, monster power guy, he has struck out 3 times. 3 times in 43 at-bats in the postseason. That's it. That's what the Blue Jays do. We'll get to that in a minute. Pitching-wise for Toronto, Gausman's made 3 starts. Yasevich has made 3. Bieber's made 3. Scherzer made a start, and then they had an opener. So we'll see how they – it looks like that's – I mean, Gausman, Yasevich, Bieber, they're going to be in there. Do they give Scherzer a start? Bassett's pitching now, but Bassett has been in the bullpen. I don't know. I mean, you could probably get 3 or 4 innings out of him. So we're not exactly sure just yet how the pitching rotation is going to break down in this World Series for the Blue Jays. And defensively, Blue Jays, a good defensive team. They made 4 errors in 11 games. So all in all, those are just the postseason numbers. Again, who knows whether they will translate into the World Series? Who knows, right? For the Dodgers, they've been pretty dominant. They played 10 postseason games. They're 9-1. Their offense has been fine. They've averaged 4.5 runs per game, 13 home runs in the 10 games. Ohtani's got 5 home runs. Hernandez has 4. So offensively, they're fine. I mean, they're very good offensively. The pitching is obviously the story. Dodgers total team ERA in the postseason is 2.45, 104 strikeouts in 92 innings. It's probably, it's one of the biggest stories of the postseason is how dominant the Dodgers pitching has been. Snell has made 3 starts. Yamamoto has made 3. Glasnow 2 and Ohtani 2. So there's your 4 starters. They've all pitched great, and those would be the 4 starters in the World Series. We know Snell's in game 1, Yamamoto's in game 2, so it'll be Glasnow and Ohtani, or vice versa in games 3 and 4. I don't think there's any question about that. The opponents have hit 173 in the postseason against the Dodgers pitchers. So they've been terrific. I mean, it's something we've talked about. I put out a video today, which you guys should go check out. It's on the YouTube channel, and it has to do with the Dodgers' advantage, and it's their pitching. I don't think that's any, it's not any big secret. So really, will any of those numbers carry into the World Series? And we don't know that, but I do think the kind of the matchup that could have the biggest impact on this World Series. And again, there's a lot of different ways we could go with this, but can the Blue Jays offensive approach, can it work against the Dodgers pitching? We know how good the Dodgers pitching is. Now, this approach we're talking about, they don't strike out. As we threw out a couple numbers there, and one about Vladimir Guerrero. They put the ball in play is what they do. But when I say put the ball in play, I don't want that to be thought of as well, they slap hit. No, I mean, I think we've watched it now. They put the ball in play, but they make hard contact. I mean, they got guys who can hit the ball in the ballpark, but they grind at bats and they don't strike out. Second fewest strikeouts in all of Major League Baseball in the regular season. And this is a team that hit 190 home runs. So that approach that we've seen, they got some big boppers, but they also got guys who just hit and they fight and they battle and they put the ball in play. Can that work, or will it work against this Dodgers pitchers who all have strikeout stuff? We've seen that. So the Dodgers, let's talk about the 4 starters, because those guys are going to be out there a lot. They're not getting taken out in the 4th inning unless they're getting knocked around. But those starters all have strikeout stuff, and they're hard to knock around. When I say knock around, I mean they're hard to string 3-4 hits in an inning off of, or they're hard to knock out early in a game. You just don't see it very much because they're so darn talented. You're going to have to figure out a way. I think the Blue Jays are going to have to figure out a way to scratch some runs across. So does that mean they play small ball? I don't know. I don't know that that's necessarily the case, because we saw in this postseason, you can say, well, you got to play small ball in the postseason. You got to bunt. Home runs have been the thing in this postseason. There's been a ton of home runs hit in the postseason. So do you think about maybe playing a little bit of small ball against the Dodgers pitching staff, or maybe you bunt a little bit more? They don't steal a lot of bases, do the Blue Jays. So can this simple approach of make contact, put the ball in play, hit one out of the ballpark once in a while, but just grind at bats. Put some pressure on the Dodgers pitchers, which nobody has really done. Nobody has done much from against the starters, anyways. So to me, if the Jays are gonna upset the Dodgers, and I think we can say it would be an upset, they may have to scratch a few runs across, and they may have to win. I think these games are going to be low-scoring games. They're going to have to win low-scoring games. I don't know about all 7 of them, but man, with the Dodgers pitching, they just don't give up much. So that to me is something I'm going to watch for. That Blue Jays approach against this really good starting pitching of the Dodgers. Hard to hit, hard to string hits against them. They just don't give it up. So when game 1 starts on Friday, let's watch to see that Blue Jays approach. And if the thing that's worked for them in the regular season has worked for them in the postseason, can it work against this powerhouse Dodger pitching staff? And here's kind of a I don't want to say secret weapon, but could it be? Bo Bichette said, "I'm playing in the World Series." Now, Bo Bichette has not played since September 6th. He banged his knee, got a left knee sprain, so he's been out. But he said he's good enough to go in the World Series. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean he's going to go back out and play short? I don't know that that's going to be the case. Could he DH? That's a possibility. Springer's been DHing. If you can get Springer in the outfield, you could DH Bichette. That's a possibility. And there's also this talk about, but they've had so much. They played so well in the postseason without Bichette. Do you want to upset that? And I understand that argument, but this is not just an every so play. Bo Bichette is really good, right? Bo Bichette hit 311 this year with over 90 RBIs. I mean, just think about that. So this is a guy, back in the lineup somehow. I think you have to try to do that. So that's going to be interesting. Will Bichette get back in there? And if he does, is he going to play in the field? I don't think so. And can he do any damage? It's a big bat you're adding, but he also hasn't played since September 6th. So, those are some of the things that I'm going to keep a close eye on when this World Series gets rolling. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's going to be fun. And but I don't think there's any question that the Blue Jays, they got their hands full because the Dodgers have been just so terrific. So just a couple more nuggets from the upcoming World Series, and then we'll wrap up this Wednesday night edition. Saw some interesting notes on just a couple different things on the World Series. The winner of Game 1 has won 63% of all World Series that have been played. There's been 120 World Series played. 120. Think about that. And you win Game 1, you've won 63% of those World Series. Thought that was pretty interesting. And the reason I thought it was interesting, too, is because Blake Snell's pitching for the Dodgers. And his last 6 starts, 3 postseason starts, 3 regular starts, he's 5-0 with a 0.68 ERA. So that's what's waiting for the Blue Jays in Game 1. And the numbers say win Game 1, it increases your chances by a whole bunch. Major League Baseball has gone 24 seasons without a repeat champion. Yankees did it in 98, 99, 2000. Remember, were they 2 outs away from doing it in 2001? Gonzalez got the hit against Rivera's, but the Dodgers are trying to repeat for the first time since the Yankees did it back in the late 90s. So that's been a long time. Parity a little bit, maybe a little bit. The payroll, Dodgers, second highest payroll in Major League Baseball behind the Mets. They're in the World Series. And the Blue Jays, the 5th highest payroll in the major leagues. And they are in the World Series. So 2 of the top 5 payrolls in all of baseball this year are in the World Series, which is probably not a giant surprise, right? But anyways, and also 6 of the top 10 payrolls this year made it to the postseason. So just a few little nuggets as we look forward to what should be, and I hope is interesting and exciting World Series with the Blue Jays and the Dodgers. And remember, the Blue Jays have home field advantage, so they will get games 1 and 2. And then if it gets to games 6 and 7, those games will be back in Toronto. So it all starts Friday night. It should be a lot of fun. And that's going to do it for tonight's show. Hope you enjoyed it. I want to check in with our sponsors one more time as we are brought to you by Tilden Properties. By investing with Tilden Properties, again, quarterly dividends and equity buildup in the real estate market. Tilden Properties has been building investment wealth for their clients since 2008. Go to their website, tildenproperties.com, and check out their portfolio. It is very, very impressive. In fact, it may make you think about jumping on board and being one of their investors. So that is Tilden Properties. We're also brought to you by the Carrick Real Estate Team. Contact Mike Carrick today for a free home sale or purchase consultation. You can call Mike at 925-5484-132. The Carrick Real Estate Team, they've been doing business in the Bay Area since 1978. Good people, family owned as well, and they will make your life easier if you are indeed making that first home purchase. We're also brought to you by Vallone Insurance. Are you tired of being overcharged for your property insurance? Vallone Insurance has multiple options for your home and landlord properties. Call Kyle or Ron at Vallone Insurance, 925-433-8271. You can save big money on your property insurance. So that's it for tonight's show, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Get to the website. There's some good stuff out there. We just put a Dodger video out, which is very interesting. Talks about their pitching advantages. And so check it out. We got some other stuff coming. And but most of all, I appreciate you guys joining me. Subscribe on YouTube to the Glen Kuiper Show. Subscriptions are jumping up again. We're closing in on 7,000 subscribers. And that's all because of you. And I thank you very, very much. So hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. And here's the deal. I will be back on Monday for a post-game edition of the World Series Game 3. Okay, so Monday we will be back. And I'm going to be gone this weekend. Going to check out a little SEC football. I'm going to go to the Oklahoma Ole Miss game, and that's going to be a ton of fun. So I'll be watching the World Series, watching a little college football, but I will be back, and I will see you Monday night for the next edition of the Glen Kuiper Show right here on my YouTube channel. Thanks for joining me, everybody, and have a good night.